So I wrote this a little while ago, but I've done some updates and I decided to actually do a bit of a video on this now. Kind of read through it and kind of really give my own take on what I actually wrote here. Um, so please forgive my how things work. So I've never actually done anything like this before. So let's see how this works. So this is a bit of a story on my own mental health, how I've had to deal with ADHD, my anxiety, and depression. Um, so starting off at the beginning, so at a young age, my mother knew there was something a little different about me. In the early '80s, the understanding of what then was called ADD. Um, there wasn't much known about it, even though there had been studies on it for decades. It's actually they've kind of known about it since like the early 1900s, but was always kind of chalked up to mainly just in young boys and just them being children. It was always assumed that children would just grow out of it eventually. I was set up with a doctor who diagnosed me fairly quickly, but there was little to no training for the parents themselves to help deal with a child with ADD. There was a lack of education for them. And I was put on Redland, and that was pretty much the only real option back then. But it did help me out. I no longer really acted out as much as I did, but it did kind of change me a little bit. I was a little more calm. It did help me focus my mind a little bit on many things, but not a lot. Math became very, very easy for me, but I still struggle with getting through reading a book and staying focused on most simple tasks. I also still lack the actual proper tools to grasp how to deal with my ADD. Um, a, a few things about me. As a child, before Redland, I was a little wild. I acted out. I did some bad things. I acted on impulses that most children wouldn't even think of. Um, and after Redland, it did change me. My impulses were a lot less, but so was many other things. But one of the things that Redland did do was made me a little docile and now left me open for being bullied, which kind of where the whole beginning of my depression started. The bullying lasted pretty much all throughout my years while I was on Redland, and even shortly thereafter. I did just kind of get used to the bullying as it now being part of my regular life. It wasn't until bunch of years later, shortly after I took myself off my meds, that I finally lost my mind on one of the bullies, and I finally fought back. But the damage was done. Um, the depression and what years of never learning how to work with my brain created a deep anxiety within me. I became afraid of rejection, which followed me all the way into adulthood. I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of what would happen if I ever let go. Um, I had been in other fights, but none with the rage that I had on that one particular day. And it scared the hell out of me. I've seen the rage a few more times, but nothing ever to that scale. So I buried that deep within me, and I tried so hard to never allow that anger to surface again, to the point that it would give me some really horrible anxiety, and it also started making me avoid many situations. I started to avoid confrontation. Combining that with my fear of rejection, let's just say I was lonely for a long, long, long time. Sure, I dated, but it was far in between. Um, I never had a problem with finding work. Um, and I did quickly find an industry that worked well with my brain, or more so, it helped me to never really deal with what was going on with my brain, as it just kept me so busy. This was the hospitality industry, specifically working in restaurants. Um, this kind of allowed me to kind of forget about the whole ADHD and depression thing. Um, I never had to truly think about it. All my life, I was told I had so much potential, and but that I was either too lazy or unfocused or just didn't seem to care, which was never the case. For me, simple tasks were harder to complete than a lot of harder tasks. Mundane was my weakness. If I found something boring, I absolutely hated it. I wanted to move forward so badly, and I always blamed others for holding me back. Um, I knew I could do so much more, but I never understood why I could never reach that next level. I worked hard and eventually found a company that took a chance on me. Although at the time they didn't know it was taking a chance. I always did interview well, um, as I knew the business and what to say. This is when I got my first manager job. I thought my career was finally taking off. It wasn't the best paying job, but it was decent. But I was decent at it, and I had for the most part the respect of the staff. Uh, which a couple of them did kind of follow me from a couple of different restaurants, and that kind of followed me throughout my career. Um, the only problem was that at this first management job, there was too many managers, and it was easy for me to hide my faults. I eventually did find another restaurant, another management job at another restaurant with fewer management, which would then start showing where my faults actually were. Um, So my weaknesses started outweighing my strengths. Again, although I did start blaming others again for my shortcomings and for my lack of learning and progression, this became a pattern throughout every job that I had after that. I get hired, move slightly ahead, not able to move any farther, blame someone else for it, so on and so forth. It wasn't until many, many years later, after moving across the country, uh, that I finally had the realization of this pattern. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had a bit of a breakdown. And the depression, which I kind of held back for a long, long time, really started to take hold. By this time, I'm now in my early 40s. I never achieved any of the goals that I had expected for myself by this age. Um, Depression was really having me hit my own uh, rock bottom mentally, and I was falling into a deep internal black hole. I was starting to think of ways that I could end it with the least impact on the lives of the ones I love, the ones that loved me. If it wasn't for my family, um, I probably would not be here today. I could never put them through. I can never put them through that. Um, like I'm getting emotional about this right now. I wouldn't be able to put them through that. And it was one. That's the biggest main reason why I'm still here today. Because I did not never want to put them through that pain. Um, so I did the probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, and I sought help um, for both my depression and for my ADHD. Because depression kind of goes along with ADHD. Um, there is no quick fix for either of these. But as one becomes more manageable, the other follows along. Um, I've been at this for a few years now. It is still a work in progress. It's probably going to be a work in progress for the remainder of my life, but it's beginning easier. Um, there is no single textbook on ADHD, as everybody's ADHD is a little different. I'm still learning what works for me and what doesn't. Um, but understanding and knowing you have it is one of the most important tools you can have. I'm still learning to work with my brain. Medication helps, but it's just one tool. Changing, adjusting, learning what works and what doesn't are all key elements. Talking to your loved ones and helping them understand, even just a little, is important. And to get them, oh, high notes. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. ADHD. Um, uh, talking once again, talking to your loved ones, helping them understand, even just a little, is important, and to help get them to adjust, not only to help with your own brain, but also for them to adjust with how they do things as well. Because it's not just a one-way street. Um, Dealing with ADHD isn't just for the one person. The people that you love have to be there too. They have to be on board because there's some stuff that they have to adjust to, and to help them understand what's going through your head. Um, uh, I'm probably going to misquote this, but one thing about ADHD is I forget who it was, um, but it's like driving your car through a rainstorm with terrible windshield wipers. Every once in a while, you will have some clarity, but everything is just you you just can't see anything. But and you're driving about like a 100 kilometers per hour, but that's what it is in my brain. Um, but one thing to know: you're not alone. You are not broken. Um, don't let yourself get down. Sorry, this is a message to everybody out there who either has it or think they might have it. You're not broken. Getting the help that you need is the best thing you can do for yourself. Um, do I wish I'd done more younger to help me deal with this? Absolutely. Um, but I can't worry about what could have been. All I can do is worry about what I can do to move forward. Um, Maybe there's another reality out there where I became the Prime Minister of Canada, or discovered a cure for cancer, or created light speed travel. Who knows? Um, the multiverse. Um, I always did imagine I was destined for greatness. Maybe I can still achieve that. It's never too late. It's never too late. If you think you have it, get help. You're not alone.